More setbacks for another of the established pilots, as Kirby Chambliss was prevented from flying due to engine irregularities. But he didn't let that affect him, as he came back in style.
It was a super relief, but there was a lot of drama, as you know, going on in Windsor. I mean, we showed up there, and one of the tests that was done on the engine we thought would put us in line with the regulations, and as it turns out, it didn't. And then to turn around and qualify #1, I mean, obviously I was very excited about that. I knew we were on the right track, and yeah, and it was then at that point that I went, you know, now I have an airplane that's capable of winning. All I got to do is just fly it good, you know. And we didn't have that for the first 2 races.
Much was expected of Nicolas Ivanov following his triumph in San Diego, but the fiery Frenchman was well off the pace.
In Windsor, we made a mistake. Bruno and me, we made a mistake because we tried to be faster. We made a very expensive modification on the plane. We put tape on the wing between the fuselage and the wing, and this tape came off a little bit during the track.
Oh, he's lost control. It's another penalty. Disaster for Ivanov.
In the end, during chicane, it was really, really hard.
His 9th place all but ending his championship dream. Ivanov wasn't the only man making errors, as the adverse weather conditions got the better of some of the pilots.
Just the wind is getting stronger and stronger from the west, and I didn't appreciate it.
It was left to a former double world champion to sneak into the top 4.
Well, I was very lucky in Windsor, and I think the other chaps helped me out because they incurred a lot more penalties than I did, and we all got penalties in Windsor. I had more tricks in the bag. Maybe I was a little more steady, but certainly we were in a position much higher than our aircraft warranted.
And daring stuff from Hannes Ark. Electrifying opening first 4 turns, but pays the price. Incorrect level flying in the entry to the chicane has already got 2 seconds added.
When I flew in the final after the race, I pulled up, I said, that was really a fast run, guys. I think you cannot beat me today. I was so sure about it, and I was so sure that it was a clean run, but still I kept positive. I said, you know what, guys, sometimes it gets you, sometimes you're lucky. So end of the season, it will equalize out, and I got motivated for the next race.
This is the best we've seen from Bonham so far in this 2009 season, as the British #1 takes the win in Windsor.
It was very, very satisfying, Windsor, and I think that was a tactical win. You know, that was nothing to do with the speed of the aeroplane. That was due to just keeping the nose clean and spotting that the wind had got up from the west. Everybody else was hitting the quadro, and actually the way to do it was just take your time around there, go through cleanly, and then clean up on the rest of the track. So I was chuffed to bits about that win.
So a majestic performance from Paul Bonham gives the British pilot his first success of the season. Now just a point behind Hannes Ark at the top of the table. Ivanov was down to 3rd and out of the championship picture. The race for the championship was intensifying. Next stop, the European city of Budapest after the mid-season break. Plenty of time to plan the next strategy. The air race returned. Rivalries revisited. The game was back on in Budapest. And for the American pilots, the last throw of the dice.
Really, Windsor was the last chance for us to make a change. Once the airplanes come here to Europe, it's very logistically expensive. I'm not saying impossible, but very difficult for us, you know, being from America, to make a change. Once the Euros get home on their home ground, then they have their advantage.
Championship leader Hannes Ark still had the points advantage and was as confident as ever.
It was my home race, definitely, and I prepared really well in my mind with the situation, and I know that I'm strong with that, and I always had doubts, like, can I handle this situation? So I focused on that preparation mind-wise, and I was quite surprised that I succeeded to go through the qualifying with quite fast times, and then ending up again in the final.
Hannes was joined in the top 4 by rival Paul Bonham, a resurgent Kirby Chambliss, and the surprise package, Michael Goulian. But with Ark on the wrong side of the judge's discretion again, and Paul Bonham continuing to struggle with his engine, the door was left open for Michael Goulian. A brand new engine and a new name on the podium, his first ever air race win.
The way they told us who won was it really me? I'm not really sure, so we're psyched. For sure.
It's awesome.
Second place for Bonham, enough to see him go top of the table. Despite that, mixed feelings.
I wasn't sure after Budapest about the year being my season, because that second place and Hannes getting fourth, me taking the lead in the championship, that actually was circumstance, really. I hadn't flown at all well all week, so to end up second, I was so happy. And Kirby, thank goodness, got in the way of Hannes. He put him back in fourth place, and you know, the rest we know about. But I think that was a stroke of luck for once going in my direction with the result.
Ark was left to pick up the pieces, and in no doubt who was to blame.
I'm still convinced, and I stick to it, the judging in Budapest was just not correct. And from that moment on, I really had difficulty to focus again and to find the motivation and to find back into this kind of like winning mode where you have to be in to be able to succeed.
Regardless of where the blame lay, one thing was for certain. The reigning champion had lost the initiative. For the first time this season, he was off the top of the table. The competition was becoming intense. The question now, did the Austrian have a special move up his sleeve in time for round 5 in Porto? But as is usually the case with the air race, nothing was going to be straightforward, as fog descended and left the pilots frustrated.
Porto, especially when we had all the fog and we had no training at all, Saturday came around, I still hadn't even seen the track yet. So for me, Porto was turning into a survival race.
Air race officials moved the airport 18 kilometres north to Maya. Luckily, Mother Nature showed some mercy as the fog cleared in time for qualifying to begin. For Hannes Ark, a chance to prove a point to the judges.
I mean, Porto was, after Budapest, I said, you know what, guys, you didn't treat me nice, now I want to show you that Team Hannes Ark is still the fastest out there and that we are able to win this championship.
But he lost concentration in qualifying, making a mistake that he could only blame on himself.
And I completely screwed up.
Oh, he's hit a pylon! He's hit a pylon! When he gets the green light, it's 6 seconds added.
That was a big learning. First of all, a big shock for me to be number 8 or 9 in qualifying, but also a big learning. I realized Hannes Ark does not perform if he's more like easygoing. He needs the pressure.
It was business as usual on race day, and with the pilots mentally psyching themselves up, it was another engine problem that ended Kirby Chambliss's hopes. A fuel leak costing the American a place in the top 4. Hannes Ark put his own problems behind him, and after making it through to the top 4, he looked for one last push. But Paul Bonham had finally changed his engine. He was back to his best. After picking up the qualifying point, he looked to make it a clean sweep as he entered the track for the day's final run.
2 gates to go now for Paul Bonham. 1:10.17, and Bonham is there. Bonham takes round 5.
We took the decision. We put another engine in. We put our 2008 race engine back in the aeroplane, which actually is, you know, unheard of. You know, how many teams go back a year with engines? We did, and it worked. And a combination of that and the aeroplane's aerodynamic efficiency and the Porto track, because you know that did help us, I think. You know, got us on the road, and you know that was a mighty relief to get all the points in Porto.
Porto will be remembered for the performances of the rookies. Yoshi Maruya, Matthias Doldra and Matt Hall were all in the top 5 fastest qualifiers. Further celebrations for Hall as the Aussie Top Gun became the first new boy to make it onto the podium in 2009.
Again, I remember pulling out of the track, looking back behind me, all the gates are still standing. Sat there, I said, in 4th place is number 5. And it's like, that's all I needed to hear. I didn't care if I came 1st, 2nd or 3rd. I made the podium.
So Bonham extended his lead at the top to 4. Hannes Ark knew he'd need to collect maximum points from the season's finale to stand a realistic chance of retaining his title. The game was almost up, the finishing line in sight. A full season of competition between 2 fierce rivals would come down to one last encounter in the Catalan capital of Barcelona. But who would hold their nerve to land a checkmate?